Hello, this is Debra Cohen, a story and a song. And we're in the month of Adar. To all of those that use the calendar in the USA, it's March 2025. And we're talking about rebuilding this country and the world to make it a better place. And one of the things that we can do is to learn the truth about things. Like, for example, what do the 7 colors of the rainbow originally mean? And what does that have to do with us today anyway? Wasn't that just for Noah? And God promised he'd never flood the earth again? That's what most of us think, right? But there's much, much more. And I encourage you to take the time, the next 30-ish minutes, and learn, according to the Creator's design, what a rainbow is meant to mean. And I'll be right back after this brief message.
Hello, this is A Story and a Song with Debra Cohen, sharing music from the 80s new wave genre to music for TV, film, and movies, as well as praise music suitable for Jewish and Christian soft rock. I share the story behind the recording of each song, as well as wisdom teachings from rabbinic sages and health topics for better senior living in the land of Florida. Please share this podcast and help it grow. Thank you. DebraCohenMusic.com.
And this is Debra Cohen again, and thank you so much for listening. And you know, the rainbow is a beautiful symbol from God to his creation, or her, if that's what you want to call God. And, I used to think that being in a rock band in the 80s, that a rainbow meant she comes in colors everywhere. She combs her hair. She's like a rainbow. That was what I thought a rainbow was, but that's where I was at. And you know what? People, when they grow, just like plants, they change. And we're meant to change and grow and bloom where we're planted. And I've discovered in my 6th decade of living, no, wait, I'm in my 7th decade, I think. Yeah. That there's much more spiritually about the rainbow that we need to know in this day and age when we're trying to live in the golden age, 2025 that is, as a baby boomer living the golden years. I'm still trying to find out what's so golden, but anyway. Okay, so let's talk about this. I love the Rolling Stones. I love that song, She's a Rainbow, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the 7 colors in the rainbow. The 7 colors in the rainbow. What? Did you know why there are 7 colors in the rainbow? Well, let's dig in here right now. And I'm going to share with you something from a website called noahide.org. It is well known that the Jewish faith does not seek to make converts. Let me change my glasses here so I can read better. And so it is generally supposed that since the Jewish people do not want to make other people into Jews, they are happy just to be left alone. The world is often very surprised to discover that the Jewish faith includes a complete provision for all non-Jews, regardless of race, social class, or national origin, perfectly attuned to their needs and deriving from the same source in divine revelation through the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, without any intermediary whatsoever. Huh? You're probably saying, whoa, I think I'm going to sit down and listen to this. Well, cheers to you as I take a sip of Java. Only the true universal faith of the Jews regularly offers something to those who are not its members, and this is its sign of authenticity. This provision is known as the Noahide laws, and I've been talking about this this is the third week going on this subject because we want to rebuild this world in peace. And peace does not mean like I've seen people like Hamas flipping the peace sign that I'm familiar with as a hippie from the 60s, but they are full of destruction. That's not peace, people. I'm not sure what they mean by the finger sign like Ringo Starr does the peace sign, but peace means law and order. It doesn't mean ooey gooey that I thought in the 60s, although that's part of it, right? But it's really working with the laws of the divine, and that's what I'm talking about today. And that's for me, and that's for you, and whosoever will. All right. So this provision, which is called the Noahide laws, though the first man and his wife, Adam and Eve, were commanded to observe them, they emerged fully only after Noah had survived the flood that wiped away violent sinners whose wrongdoings had engulfed the world in his time. Unfortunately, we look to be heading in that same direction today in 2025, so let's try to halt the complete takeover of violence, which, by the way, the word Hamas in Hebrew means violence, if you didn't know that in your Bible. The ancestors of the Jewish people were also commanded in them until they were given the whole Torah at Mount Sinai, and they were then reaffirmed through Moshe Rabbeinu for all the other nations. So that means the whole world has a responsibility to acknowledge the law and order of the Noahide laws. The laws are all prohibitions, unlike those of the Jewish people who have affirmative commandments, but they are not intended to make life dull or restricted. They point out what the good and true path should be, and with this path, all moral necessities for the non-Jews as well that are established without need for any other philosophy, scientific discovery, or change in government. All relationships between Jews and non-Jews are likewise explained, both in Israel and in other countries. So I'm going to run through these Noahide laws, which were and are intended for all peoples of all nations. And I thank you for Musica, it looks like Chim Gusta in Instagram that just joined. Thank you for listening. I hope you will find this interesting. All people originate from sexual relations, and so the laws that govern them are our most basic constitution, testifying to the divine origin of humankind. Non-Jews are not commanded to marry, but they are encouraged to do so, and they are forbidden to have relations with the wife of another man, aka adultery. Unfortunately, as a side note, a lot of American TV is popular because it shows bedroom scenes and adultery, which I can't imagine why anybody would consider that anything but immoral and should be banned from TV. I'm sorry. I don't need to be looking at somebody else having sex in bed. I mean, come on, people. It's called voyeurism. Let's get real here and get back to purity and morality in this country. It wasn't always this way. You might become desensitized because that's what we watch on TV today if you choose to watch that stuff. But that's not the way God intended all people to be. Male homosexuality, incest, and bestial relationships are also forbidden under the same heading, even though the desires for them are very different. And, this is God. I'm the messenger. So if you're getting your dander up right now because you think the rainbow has to do with homosexuality and lesbianism and whatever, I'm sorry. You hijacked the rainbow from God and changed its meaning to something else, which human beings do a lot. Jews and non-Jews are forbidden to each other because of the different origin of their respective commandments. So what's that saying? That Jews have 613 commands and non-Jews, which would be the rest of the world, only have 7. They're called Noahide laws. When these laws are observed, then human relationships of all kinds are enhanced by the divine sanction, and love increases throughout the whole world. So this is a wonderful thing to embrace, the Noahide laws and the laws of the divine. Okay, the second category is murder. Though the reasons for sexual prohibition may be mysterious, most people, if asked what laws they would make to govern the world, would immediately say that on no account must illegal bloodshed be allowed to go unpunished. Unfortunately, in this day and age, premeditated murderers are in tax-paid buildings with free food and free room and board. That's not what God is saying should be their punishment. Human life is a sacred trust and can only be taken with legal sanction. The murderer is executed by decapitation at the sentence of the duly authorized sovereign court only. Protection is extended to the unborn, and the details of any abortion case must be closely studied according to the law. War action is subject to strict security standards at the order of a lawful regime. It is rare for any person to take life in truly wanton circumstances because of instinctive recognition of its value, and this recognition must be taken up to the level of reckoning that the spiritual law requires. In my previous segments, I introduced this letter that you see on my left shoulder. It's, I'm pointing, the camera's opposite, sorry. This is a letter from the Sanhedrin, the nascent Sanhedrin, newly formed Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, proposing that we create a divine court. And this letter is addressed to President Trump in 2025. The next category in the Noahide laws is theft. The first man and woman transgressed the Noahide prohibition of theft by eating the fruit which had been forbidden to them. We're talking about Adam and Eve. And this is still a divine provision for non-Jews regarding all property in the hands of others. Property ownership is underwritten by divine law for all humanity and is not just a matter for an aggrieved individual to settle for himself. Respect for property rights is the basis for generosity with possessions and for business dealings that lead the world through the use and traffic of goods to its final destiny. This brings moral satisfaction in the workplace. and the fostering of ethics in the area which is a prime need for our society. Next, in the Noahide laws, is idolatry. If the worship of entities other than the Creator had not been forbidden by his express command, then people would be free to choose what to worship, just as they choose their own personal friends. However, the whole area of relations between humanity and its Creator has been placed under specific requirements, namely that only His truth, meaning God's truth, and unity should be the subject of belief, worship, and philosophy. His revelation has two levels, the one in nature for ordinary reckoning, and the other through prophecy on Mount Sinai for the moral law. All non-Jews derive their true religious fulfillment from this latter source, and any reference to an intermediary causes error and loss of morality. There is no need for non-Jews to form associations for Noahide observance and prayer, but they may do so if they wish. Next, cursing the name with a capital N. The power of speech distinguishes humanity from all other species, and this distinction leads to the specific human prohibition not to use speech for cursing the Creator, because it shows ingratitude for his kindness. This commandment pairs with the previous one, showing that the divine rulership and the divine love go together at all times and places, no matter how great the difficulties may seem. Jews and non-Jews are commanded in the same verse in this respect, showing how, in the Messianic times, all of humankind will join together in voicing praise for the Creator. All other misuses of speech, such as gossip, obscenity, and lies, are indicated in this commandment as something to avoid, just as prayer and words of Torah are desirable, so that speech will become truly divine. Next Noahide law, eating the limb of a living animal. Though it may seem far-fetched to think of eating meat from a living creature, the intent behind this prohibition is to safeguard the human sexual integrity. The connection between eating and sexuality is well known, and it is the sexual drive for consumption of the heat of life that leads to the kind of greed that damages reproduction. The Noahide law teaches us that this is rectified by being careful to eat only meat from an animal that is fully dead. And this is by no means always the case in our factory society, where slaughterhouses handle meat animals quickly and carelessly, sometimes only stunning them before cutting them up for sale. Care in this observance fosters all requirements for the love of nature and the preservation of the environment, and safeguards the passage of souls as manifested in the life and consumption of food animals until the ultimate destiny of the world. The next Noahide law, system of justice. The non-Jewish nations of the world are commanded to avoid the state of anarchy by assuming and exercising the sovereign jurisdiction to maintain courts that punish offenders by due process of law and that provide civil redress in society. The Noahide laws themselves form the basis of the criminal code, but each nation may make civil laws as it sees fit within the general guidelines. This provision does not apply within the land of Israel, where the sovereign power is in the hands of the Jewish people, and they judge non-Jews of any nationality living or visiting there under these same Noahide laws. Corporations are held in being by the sovereign power through the enactment of corporate law, which is empowered by this commandment. The sovereign power is responsible for relating or regulating these corporations in the public interest and ensuring their conformity with all aspects of the law. Thus, communism and fascism are in breach of the spiritual law because of their lack of this regulation. Non-Jews are obligated to seek reconciliation rather than take their disputes straight to court, and this in turn obligates them to give charitable donations to the needy so as to foster reconciliation in general. The rabbis of the Talmud say, quote, "War comes to the world through the delay of justice, the perversion of justice, and the teaching of Torah out of accordance with its legal meaning," end quote. When all processes of law are rectified in this way, with good government applied to sustain them, functioning in divine integrity, then grievances are properly handled and true peace emerges into the light of day. This is among the recognitions of the United States Congress in its declaration endorsing the Noahide laws. And the reference is H.J. Resolution 104, Public Law 102-14, dated March 1990, and subsequently, based on long historic understanding of the Jewish people and the Torah. This is the book explanation by Rabbi Bindman called The Seven Colors of the Rainbow. So as you can see, the original intent of the rainbow is to ascribe the laws to all humanity, with the Jews having additional laws, but all of the world, including the Jews, have the basic law foundation of the world called Noahide laws. If we ascribe to the Noahide laws, we will have the beginning of peace, which comes from law and order, which I have just described, given by the divine. Are we, the people, able to accept what God commands? That is between you and the Creator, between me and the Creator. I pray that we would decide, all peoples, to embrace the Noahide laws, to reestablish the foundational truths of this world, to accept that the Jewish nation, even though favored by God, has a much more stringent list of laws to follow. But it's meant to create harmony and peace in the world, and the Jews are to be a light to all nations. This provokes hatred in those that rebel against these laws. These people today, one such group being Hamas, is given equal legal footing in a system of government to try to come to some court of agreement with a violent entity that poo-poos the Noahide laws. They need to be banned. We should never be bartering with violent peoples. There are penalties, of which I just shared with you, that should be afflicted upon those people that are violating the Noahide laws. And I just pray that you would take this information to heart, write to your politicians, and teach this wherever you are. Every pastor should be reteaching these Noahide laws in their Bible studies. And Jews need to educate the world and let them know that true peace comes from divine law and order. Thank you very much. I hope that you will share this in sincerity. There will always be people that mock the truth, but we're not to spend our time speaking things that aren't going to change life for the better. I hope that you will embrace the truth, speak the truth, and if you have been watching gossip on TV or adultery, sexual immorality, let's not watch that garbage anymore. Junk in equals junk out. Let's clean it up, people, and come back to morality for the whole world. I know that's a big pill to swallow, but I think it's possible. God would not have given us these laws if he didn't think, or if you want to say if Elohim didn't think that she or he would be able to give us something that we couldn't do. We can do this, one voice at a time. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will be a truth seeker.
It's the golden age, 2025. Shop Amazon.